This question came from Kira, who at the age of 4.5 wanted to build a building with 1 billion floors. In fact, it was her father's question, who wanted to help Kira understand how vast and complex such a project is. Kira, if you build a building too tall, the top will be heavy and compress the bottom until it becomes really high, and then the top will just break off and go into an orbit close to the moon. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. Have you ever tried to build a tower out of jelly? Making a small wobbly jelly castle is easy. In fact, some people enjoy serving jelly this way. But if you try to build a truly large jelly castle, it will just collapse in on itself. The same happens with buildings. Eventually, they become very strong. The tallest among them reach nearly 1 kilometer in height, and if we wanted, we could build structures 2 or even 3 kilometers high, and they would still hold their own weight. But if we try to make them even taller, we will encounter the jelly problem. The top will compress the bottom. Tall buildings come with their own problems. One of them is the wind. At great heights, the wind is very strong, and buildings must be very sturdy to withstand it. Another problem is the elevators. Tall buildings need elevators, as no one wants to climb hundreds of flights of stairs. If your building has many floors, you need many different elevators so that all people can reach the required floors at the same time. Some existing tall buildings have floors specifically designed for transfers between elevators. If the building is too tall, the entire space will be occupied by the elevator system, leaving no room for ordinary rooms. Another major problem is money. A building several miles tall would cost billions of dollars, and most people do not consider such giant towers important enough to spend such sums on. Even if you found a lot of money, you would still face difficulties building a billion-story tower. It's just too much. A large skyscraper can have about 100 floors, equivalent to the height of 100 small houses. And if we stacked 100 skyscrapers on top of each other, we would create a mega skyscraper that would reach halfway to space. But even such a skyscraper would have only 10,000 floors, which is much less than your billion. So let's stack 100 mega skyscrapers to create a mega skyscraper. This mega skyscraper would be so tall that its top would touch the moon, leading to a new problem: centrifugal forces. Just like on a swing, everything that rotates with the Earth's equator feels the influence of these forces. On the surface of the Earth, objects weigh about 0.5% less at the equator than at the poles. The further you go, the weaker gravity becomes, while centrifugal forces increase. These effects are equal at a distance just over 1/10 of the way to the moon. If you built a skyscraper this tall, you could launch a geostationary satellite just by dropping it out of the window. But our mega skyscraper is so much higher than the geostationary orbit that most of its mass would be in an area where the centrifugal force is much stronger than gravity. The engineering challenge of such a skyscraper is not for it to collapse like jelly, but for it to explode into pieces and drift into orbit near the moon. And still, it won't be 1 billion floors. To achieve such a result, we would need to stack 10 mega skyscrapers on top of each other to get one of Kira's skyscrapers. At its peak, the skyscraper would move faster than the speed at which the solar system orbits the Milky Way. And if done correctly, one could launch a satellite with nearly enough speed to leave our galaxy just by releasing it from a window. In general, Kira's skyscraper will be almost impossible to build, and all free parts will scatter across the galaxy, but the view from the roof would be breathtaking.